Following your meeting with the premier, his office put out a statement saying that the U.S. should refrain from politicizing and national securitizing economics and trade, and appeared to be dismissive of some of the concerns that you raised about overcapacity. What's your response to that? And if China does not make changes, what types of measures do you think should be considered to protect the green energy industries that the Biden administration is trying to develop?
Well, I believe that in several hours of conversation on this topic, that I was able to make very clear the basis for our concerns about Chinese overcapacity, and that our concerns are not U.S. concerns alone, but also reflect the views of our allies in Europe, in Japan, and in developing emerging markets, Mexico, India, among others. So this is a widespread set of concerns, and I believe he heard very clearly my view that this is something that, if not addressed, will injure American workers and firms. And I think he also understands that we have concerns with respect to our supply chain resilience about developing undue overdependence on China as a source of supply in areas like clean energy, which will clearly be expanding in the decades ahead. And we need to have some participation in this, as our allies do. So we agreed, as I mentioned, to launch intensive exchanges on balanced growth in the domestic and global economies. The reason for that is because the Chinese have heard our concern with the potential impact on American workers and firms, and realize that we need to discuss this and address this collaboratively.
You mentioned the recent stability in U.S.-China ties that some of this recent diplomacy has helped achieve. I'm wondering if this overcapacity issue does kind of become the worst-case scenario and a repeat of the first China shock, as you mentioned. I mean, is that something that you think has the potential to destabilize this recent momentum? I mean, is this central to kind of the future of the bilateral relationship, whether this issue can be resolved successfully?
Well, it is a critical issue, and it is one that could have an adverse impact on American workers and firms if we don't find a solution. So I believe we have a commitment with the Chinese to try to work cooperatively to understand the economic concerns that each of us has. And this is a very important concern of ours. I think my job here is to make sure I've explained this very thoroughly and presented this concern at the highest levels of Chinese leadership so that they understand the importance that we attach to this. I do not want to see the U.S. economic relationship or overall relationship with China deteriorate and fray. And I believe the Chinese are undertaking these consultations and ongoing exchanges because they share a similar desire to stabilize our relationship, that we both see the benefits of a strong trade and investment relationships. As I said, there are gains to us from being able to sell into a huge Chinese market. For many American firms, it supports many jobs, and the Chinese gain similar benefits. We have a deep relationship in terms of trade and investment, and I think neither side would wish to see this relationship really to decouple. So we're working together honestly in good faith to have frank and candid discussions and to find a way forward that is constructive.
On overcapacity, whether EV battery solar, anything that already exists, whether you're looking for voluntary export restrictions?
Well, I don't have anything specific to say here. This is a problem that has developed over many years. I think, importantly, it reflects Chinese policies that place great priority on these sectors, channel support to them, enable them to continue operating even when prices drop to very low levels due to overcapacity, and their firms don't exit the market. Instead, it's potentially our firms that have to do so. I think some changes in policy, as I mentioned, on the Chinese side are necessary and appropriate, and these are matters that we will begin discussing as early as next week when the Economic Working Group convenes again.
Your counterparts brought up TikTok in your discussions. Was any progress made on resolving that issue? Is it practical to ban the app in the U.S.?
So let me start with TikTok. It's a subject that was raised in our meetings. We discussed it briefly. The president has made clear there's a bill in the House that, if passed, he indicated he would sign. And I am certainly supportive of efforts by our administration to address national security issues that relate to sensitive personal data. So our concern here has to do with sensitive personal data and protecting it. This is a legitimate concern. It's a concern that China, for its part, also is concerned about. Many U.S. social apps are not allowed to operate in China. We would like to find a way forward. Of course, this is important to the Chinese,